Welcome to the AppPresser 3 Advanced Features in Coding webinar. So today we're going to be talking about some of the features that maybe you haven't quite dove into yet, things that, advanced customization of your app, and just things that we think are really cool ways to, make your apps a lot more customized. So the first thing that we're going to look at is API list pages. I'm also going to be going over custom HTML pages, some cool things that you can add there, template hooks for API lists. And if we have time, we're going to get in a little bit into the offline assets and a little bit of, I'll show you guys some USB debugging or some dev tools debugging and some of the login membership features, maybe some of the new features that you guys missed. So I see we have people from all over the world: Germany, Dallas, Chicago, Costa Rica. All right, thanks for being here, everybody. So let's go ahead and dive in. I am going to share my screen. All right. So I'm going to just basically go through a demo app and show you some of the things that I've built and how you can add those to your own app. So here I just have a normal custom home page in my app, which comes by default, shows your menu items, and I have an image up here at the top. And the first thing I'm going to go over is the API lists. So let's say you have a bunch of WordPress posts on your site and you want to get those into the app. There's a couple different ways you can do that. The first is to use an app list or a WordPress app list, which is essentially using an iframe to show your WordPress posts. And so to do that, you add it to the menu, you create the app list page on your site, you add it to your menu, and then it looks like something like this. This is in our documentation, so I'm not going to go over this too much in depth, but essentially this is like a little iframe of your site and it's showing your WordPress posts. You can click into a single post view and it shows your comments. You can, add a comment. You see all the stuff that you would normally see on your WordPress site. So this is one way to do it. Another way to do it is to use an API list. And the way that you create, and this basically uses the WP API, and it pulls in the data from your site and it creates a list of posts for you. So let me show you what this looks like. To create one, you go over to your custom pages, add a title, choose the way you want to display it, add your list route, and then choose favorites or enabling favorites or the slider. So this is really cool. It looks like this. Something like this. So basically the display is a little bit simpler. You can show featured images and things like that if you want. And then when you click into the post, you can see the post content and everything like that. So the difference with this is that it's a lot faster. It's cached for offline use, and it feels it's a little bit more like the way that apps normally work. So I'm going to show you how to customize this, because one of the drawbacks of these API lists is that they're a little bit harder to work with because they don't work out of the box with all your plugins. Like, for example, if you have like a Facebook comments plugin or something, like you can't see the comments on here, you can't fill out a form, you can't do, stuff like that. So hang on one second, I'm going to close. Okay. So I'm going to show you how to customize these, and we're going to use template hooks as an example. And I'm going to actually show you how to add comments to the single post view here. But using the same concept, you can do pretty much anything with this. You can add post meta, you can add images, you could add, like say in WooCommerce, you could add a price, you could add a date, you could add, any type of custom data you want to the app, and it'll show up here in this post view. So to do that, we're going to use template hooks. So I want to show you guys first that we do have a post on this, and if you go to our blog, you can see more information about these API lists and these, just kind of the basics about template hooks. We go through this in the list routes. So I'm going to kind of dive into this a little bit further. The way that these template hooks work is you actually put a plugin on your WordPress site and it adds extra data to the app, and then it shows up actually in the app. So I will post, let's see. If you go to this blog post It's on our blog, and it's under, so apppresser.com/blog, and you go to API-driven list pages. It was from January 3rd, and you can scroll down a bit, and you'll see some information here, and you'll see actually some code for the custom template hooks. So I'm going to use that code. I'm also going to post this code later after the webinar so you guys can check it out. But essentially, it's a plugin, and you add some features to the, you use like register REST field, things like that. So for this case, I'm going to actually add a comment to our post view. So the first thing that I need to do is go to my site. I'm going to actually create a plugin, and I'm going to activate this plugin on my site, and then I'm going to add this code to the plugin. So like I said, if you need an example code, we have that on our blog. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this code right here, and then I'm going to explain what it does. So essentially, this is going to use the REST API init, and it's going to register a REST field. So what this is doing is, in our post response from the WP API, we are basically going to be adding data to it. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm actually going to use a custom post type. So I'm going to change this from post to actually events. And what this is going to do is add a field to the REST response with our events post type. And I'll show you guys my events right here on my WordPress site. It's just a normal custom post type, and it has some posts. And I'm going to actually add some comments to this. So after I register my REST field, I need to add a callback to actually display the comments. So here I'm going to copy paste this. And what we see is here I have my callback, and then this is my callback function. So a lot of this code is kind of boilerplate, you know, and it accepts some certain arguments, and then we use that in here. But the important part that I want you guys to look at is essentially we are going to be adding to the REST field, so adding a template hook. So the template hook part, I'm going to delete this so that it's not confusing, but essentially the template hook part looks like this. You know, I could just add hi to post detail below content. Now in our documentation we have some, you know, a bunch of template hooks that you can use. You can put it on the list view, you can say below content, above content, you know, below title, things like that. In our documentation has all of them, but essentially if I wanted to change this to like the post list and be like below title, you know, that's how I would change it to actually go into a different place in my app. So for our purposes, we're going to use the post detail view because that's where the comments would be. We're going to go below content because that's also where the comments would be. And then we need to add our comments. So again, this code that I commented out here, essentially we're using the WordPress get comments function, and we're telling it that we want it to be this, the object ID, that's the post ID. So we're telling it to get the comments for this post. And then we're going to basically loop through each of the comments and display them in our below content here. So what this is doing is it's adding a div called comment, and it's adding the comment author and the comment content inside of this div. So then since we have a class on it, we can use that to style the data later. So I'm going to save this and show you guys what it looks like. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to refresh the page so that I can go get the new API data in my app. I'm going to click into my events list, and I click into the volleyball post, and if I scroll down, you'll see that here I have my comments. So I have the comment author, which is AppPresser, and I have the comment content, which is this here. So I have two comments, and I have this display right here. So because I have actually used a class of .comment, I can put in my app customizer under colors, I can actually style this. So for example, if I wanted like the background to be, I don't know, gray or something, I can do that. I can, you know, give it more padding. You know, I can change the color, whatever I wanted to do, right? To make these kind of look more like how I want the comments to look like. So you can imagine now with these template hooks, we can basically add anything that we want here. It doesn't have to be comments. It could be something like, some sort of video, or it could be, text, or it could be like a link or something like that. Now, the limitations of this would be it can pretty much only be display data or links or things like that. You wouldn't, for example, be able to add a working comment form where people could actually add comments to your site, because that requires some server-side processing, some JavaScript, some things that are not able to be pulled in through the API. So for example, like you can't add like a gravity form to the bottom of this post or something like that. If you need to do stuff like that, that's what our WordPress app list is for. Like I was showing you before, if you go back here and go to this app list, again, we're pulling this straight from the WordPress site, and then we can actually do things like add a gravity form. We can have a comment, people add comments. We can do things like that. So really, these API lists are more for if you're just displaying data and things like that. So another thing I want to show you with template hooks, if we use this same process, what we can do is actually, let me see. I want to actually add the event date to my post list. So here we're actually adding the comments, and then below that, I'm going to actually be adding on the post list view above the title, I'm going to add the event date, which is actually post meta. So by default in the WP API, post meta does not display. So this is how you would add post meta to the API. And in our case, we're adding it to a template hook. So in my case, I have event date is a custom field. I'm going to show you this in my post type. It's post meta. So if I go down here, like you'll see, I have in my custom fields, I have event date and I have February 25th. So, and I have that on all of these event posts. So I want to display those. And how I do that is get post meta. I have the key of event date. I have object ID is the post ID. And then I basically just send that back with my data. So now in the app, if I go back and refresh this, I'm gonna refresh it so that I can get the new API data from my site. Click on events list, and you'll see that over here I have these dates. So you'll see I have February 25th, February 12th, January 15th. It does have some cool styling, and that is from Custom CSS. So if I don't have the CSS, it doesn't look quite as cool. But because I gave it a class of event date, I can actually style it and do all kinds of stuff, do whatever I want with it. I could change the color to red so I can see it a little better. I can float it, put it on the right side, do whatever I want with it. So you'll see how, I could do other things with this. I could, instead of adding a date, I could add, a certain image. Featured images already display by default on our list, but if you wanted to add, some special type of data that just doesn't show up by default, this is how you do it. This is all with template hooks. So we have documentation on template hooks. We also have a blog post on it, and we're going to release a blog post about with this webinar recording. It will also have the custom code that I've been using in this demonstration so that you can see how to use it on your own site or in your own app. Yeah, so let's see that. Another thing that I wanted to mention is another way to customize your list view is to actually use arguments with your list route. So as you know, any of these list routes can be any valid WP API endpoint. So it can be, like a default endpoint, like posts or pages. It can also be like what we're using now is a custom post type. It can be a custom route that you have registered. Now, just make sure if you're doing something like using a custom post type, you need to actually make sure that it's registered to show in the REST API, because custom post types don't show by default. So make sure you look in their documentation for that. And another thing that you can do is just refine your list of posts further by using arguments. So the way that we do that is if we look at the WP API website, we have their arguments here. You can see this, and there's a link to this in our documentation, but it's v2.wp-api.org/reference/posts, and then scroll down to list posts arguments. But essentially, this allows you to filter the posts that you want to see. So for example, if you want to display only posts from a certain category, you could do this. Categories equals 22. And the category is actually the term ID for the category. And so you need to make sure you get the term ID. The way to do that is to go to your posts, categories, and then if you actually hover over it, you'll see it in the URL. It'll actually say the ID, or you can click into it and look at the URL, and you'll see it says tag ID equals 23. So that's the term ID for that category. So in that case, I could go back here and say 23 is the category that I want. Now there's lots of other arguments as well. And let's see. So for example, you can use author, you can use order by, you can exclude certain posts. You can say how many posts you want per page. So if you wanted to add another argument, I want to show 15 posts per page, and I want only show the posts from author with an ID of 2, then you can see how we can filter these. You can add more arguments. If you're not familiar with URL parameters, the first one has a question mark. All the other ones have an ampersand in between them. That's the correct way to do URL parameters. Now this also works for the WordPress app lists. It works the same way, so you can filter all of your posts that way. So pretty cool. That is template hooks and API lists. And I'm going to move on now to custom posts, or I'm sorry, custom HTML pages. So once again, we have a post about custom HTML pages on our site. If you go to apppresser.com/custom-pages, or you could just go to our blog and click on the link. But we have lots of information about custom pages here. You can do lots of cool things like embed a Google map, a YouTube video. You can use custom layouts with Ionic. You can add slides and links to your to all of your pages in your menu. And some of those pages are in your app by default, so you're probably familiar with those. I'm going to show you some stuff that might be a little bit new to you. And one cool thing that you can do is add one of these little Fab buttons. And I'm not sure if you can see that on the video, but basically when you click this, it expands and you can choose where to put these Fab buttons. They're basically fixed little buttons that show some logos and things like that. So let me go into that. Give me 1 second. I think we're having maybe some difficulty here. Okay. Okay. Give me 1 second. Sorry. Okay. Okay, so to add one of these little Fab buttons, what I have in here is I actually have a link to the home page of our app. I have a link to social sharing link, and I have a link to my website. And the social sharing is going to open up the native social sharing dialog. The website's going to open up the in-app browser, and then the home button will open up, a page in my app like that. So these are really cool. You can add lots of different types of links in them. I'm going to show you how I created this. So first of all, you add a custom page. You go to custom HTML, and in these custom HTML pages, you can put anything that's valid HTML. You can also add Ionic tags. So for example, Ion card will show this card like up here at the top. They're basically like little bootstrap UI elements, and you can find these in the Ionic Framework docs. If you go to Ionic docs and you go to components, you can see all of the different UI elements that they have. And these are really cool. They allow you to just have these, you know, app UI elements in your pages and sort of move them around and make them do anything that you want to do. So if I scroll through here, you'll see the different cards. Like you can have a list inside of a card. You can have images inside of cards with buttons on them and different things like that. Now, not everything in this list works. Only the things that are kind of in our documentation work. Like I'm going to show you some of them. Cards and like the Fab button. So you can go here and check out the Fab buttons. Like you can put them on anywhere you want in the app. And they're sort of like just these fixed buttons that show other icons, and when you click on them, they do something. So, so the way that I created this is I went here, sort of added this card as an example. I also added just like an example list item that's static, and then I'll get to this other stuff in a minute. But as far as the Fab button, I mean, this is just pretty much copy and pasted from the Ionic documentation, and then I added these on-click events. So here you'll see with if window.open with the target blank, that will actually open the in-app browser. If I use plugins.social sharing, that is going to open up the native sharing dialog. And then if we use push page with a page from our menu inside of it, then that's going to actually show one of the pages from our menu. So you can kind of use your imagination, and you can change the way the icons look and where this is positioned and use different links. And again, the code for this example is going to be posted on our blog as soon as we put the recording of the webinar up, in case you're interested in that. Now, another thing you're probably familiar with is showing the menu items in a list. And if I click on one of these, then it will actually, you know, open up a page in my app. That's by default, you'll see that on your custom homepage. This is just kind of a different way to display it. Instead of in a cards, it's actually just displayed in a normal list. Then the last thing is there's an update data button. Now this is kind of a newer feature, and it allows you to update the data in your app by clicking on it. So it actually goes and fetches the new data from the API. So if you change colors or menus or anything like that, your app users can then click this button and it will actually refresh the app. So it's a cool way, like maybe just to add it for testing or something to update it. But with our preview app, you don't really need to do this, but you might be interested in putting that in your app in like a settings page, to sort of keep things updated. So I'm going to jump into the comment or the chat right now and see if there's some questions that anybody wants to answer. So I wasn't able to get John on this call, so I'm just going to kind of look through these real quick, then I'll continue with a couple more features. So one person said the custom hooks only work on the default list, not the card list. So the card list actually has different API hooks. And so you have to actually put card list into the template hook, and then that will actually show it on the cards. And so the exact syntax of that can be found in our documentation for template hooks. Corey asked about WPML integration. And we do have WPML integration. I will, if you email us, I can tell you more about that. Okay, so so as far as the update app button, it does not update offline pages or offline media or anything like that. It only updates the API data. So that would be like colors and menus. So let me continue showing you guys a couple other things. So let's see, that's custom pages. So another thing that you might be interested in is our login and membership features. And these basically allow you to put a login button in your side menu, a login, logout button. And let me just show you that real quick. So we'll go here. So it basically shows you a login modal that shows a login form, and if you're logged in, it shows you, click here to log out. And one of the cool things that this allows you to do is to actually hide and show menu items based on whether people are logged in or logged out. So to hide a menu item when someone, to only show it when someone's logged in, like for example, if you have protected, let's just call this protected content. This is something that's only for members. Then we just add logged in under extra classes for the menu and save it. And then that will only show when someone is logged in. If they are logged out, they will not see this item in their menu. So it allows you to have kind of a little bit of a membership feature there. Now, if you have WordPress pages that are attached to your membership plugin, those will still protect all of your content the same way they would on your website. So if someone is not logged in, they will not see any content, or they will see a login form or whatever you have set up to display. And then it will, when they log in, it will only show them the content for their particular membership level or however you have it set up. That will work exactly the same way as you have it set up on your site. So these items here are strictly for, like, if you want to do a custom HTML page or some sort of item in your menu that you only want to be displayed to logged in users, then you can use this logged in class. And then in your actual app settings, you want to make sure that under the login settings, you have your WordPress URL with HTTPS. And then also, if you want to use Facebook login, you have your Facebook login settings there. Some of these features are not available in all plans, so make sure to check out our pricing page if you don't see a feature. So another thing that I wanted to show you guys is the offline, sort of offline media. You may be familiar with this already, but offline media allows you to embed images and media into your app so that it can work offline. And the way that you do that is you go to your settings and you upload a zip file with your media in it. So the way that I would do this, if I wanted to add a couple different features, or let's see if I want to add a couple different images. So what you can do is actually select the images and then choose. On a Mac, I'm choosing compress. On Windows, you right click and choose, I forget what it's called exactly, it's zip something. But essentially I would compress these items and then I would find the actual zip file that created, which in my case is this archive.zip right here. And then I would, I'm gonna re-upload this here, put this archive.zip, choose it, and then I'm gonna save. So what that does is it's gonna allow me to choose these images that I just uploaded on my custom pages. So when I go to a custom page, my home page, you'll see that I have an image that has assets in the source, and then it has the name of my file. So I can do that with any types of images. I can, whatever you upload here, you just put assets in the source first, and then you put the file name. So you want to just double check if you put a folder in, if you actually zipped a folder, then you'll need to put the folder name in the path like this. So you can also use this to play videos and audio offline using our media player. And I'm not going to go over that, but you can look it up in our documentation. And it basically, it has a little player for your offline media. Now, I would not recommend using a lot of offline media because it's going to increase the size of your app and it's going to slow down download times. And there are actually limits imposed by the app stores on how big your apps can be. So use it sparingly. Things like if you want to add a custom logo or just have a couple images on your homepage that load really fast, this is a great way to do that. If you want to add a custom logo, you can also upload your custom logo to your offline assets. And then we actually have code in our documentation on exactly how to get that to work, just go to our documentation and look up custom logo, and that will show you how to do that. One other thing I wanted to show you guys is sort of debugging your app. So when I'm building apps, I use my developer tools a lot to see what type of problems are happening in my app. So if you've never used the dev tools, I highly recommend you check these out. We actually have some documentation on it, but if you look up, whatever browser you're using, Chrome developer tools or Safari developer tools, you can usually open these using Alt-Command-I or Alt-Control-I or Option-Command-I, and or you can actually go to, I believe it's window. Sorry, I never used this menu. Oh, View Developer Tools. Yeah, that will actually open it up. And what you can see is if you open up the console tab, and then as you're clicking through your app, you can actually see some of the things that are going on. So, like for example, if you have a problem loading a certain page, it'll tell you about it. And if you load up your WordPress site and you're getting some errors, like you'll see in red, I have a mixed content error, and this is because I'm loading a page that's not HTTPS. And you'll also see just some informational messages here. But this is a great way to kind of see what's going on if you have a problem with a page or something like that. Let's see. So we have more information about that in our documentation. Also, you can use USB debugging to actually be testing things on your device and to be able to see errors on that. And it's really hard for me to show you USB debugging through a screen share. So I would just say go to our documentation and check that out. But basically, you hook a USB cable up to your device, and then you open up a browser console like this and hook it up to your phone. And then you can actually see errors as you're clicking through the app on your phone. And this is really handy. It does not work with apps straight from the App Store. It only works with debuggable apps that are built on PhoneGap Build with a developer certificate. But nonetheless, it can be very handy. So that about does it for some of the advanced features. I am going to actually look through the chat now and see if I can get a couple questions answered before we finish up. If you guys have anything in particular, then definitely post that in the chat. Some of the questions I see in here are more support questions. They're very specific to your account. So if you have those real specific questions, please send those in to our support desk and we'll try to get those answered. So I see, can you show how to open an external link from the app in the device standard browser? Yeah, so actually if you can, that's what's called a system link. So if you look up in our documentation system, you'll see it on a WordPress page. You can add a class of system, and I'm not 100% sure if those are fully integrated into our custom pages yet, but I know from WordPress pages, you can just add a class of system and put target equals blank and then the custom system. So nested menus are something that we're still working on. Not possible to add custom push sounds right now, but we did have, you will have actually the default device sound when getting a push notification. How can one initiate a specific menu item based on device? Sorry, I don't fully understand that question. I don't know that there's a way to tell between an iPhone and an iPad, because it's the only thing we can tell is like iOS versus Android or something. Show a specific menu item only to a specific device. Sorry, I'm not sure if that's possible. We don't have a search option available for the menu bar at this point, but that's a feature that we would definitely like to add. How do you find the CSS for modal logins? Okay, this is actually a really good one. I'm going to show you guys real quick how to find the custom CSS that you want to use. So let's say, for example, that you want to add some custom CSS, change the way things work. So like I talked about before, we're going to open the developer tools and we're going to go to Elements tab. And then if you click on this little arrow here in Safari, I think it's like a little plus sign, like crosshairs. But essentially what we can do is we can start selecting things in the app and see what the classes are that they have on them. So if I look actually over here, I see that this one has a class of menu-card. And then if I look to the right a little bit, you'll see that there's some styles already applied to it. Like for example, this background color. So if I want to make a change to it, you know, I can say like the background color I want to be white, and then I want the color to be red. So then I can see, since this is making the correct change, then I can actually come over here and add that to my custom CSS here. I can say, you know, background, I can even change it again, be like green, you know, color, white. And then that changes the styles for this particular element. Now, one thing you want to watch out for is the styles that you're looking in the browser sometimes have something that looks like this card-MD or like card-iOS, or a lot of the elements, they have this MD or this iOS. So you do not want to include that unless you are doing platform-specific styles. So anything with -MD is Android, anything with -iOS is iOS only. So if I were to, for example, put in here like .card iOS, that will only apply these colors to iOS. And if I were to put card MD, that will only apply them to Android. And because we're in a Chrome browser here, it's applying Android styles. So another thing you want to do, this is just basic CSS, but you want to make sure you have enough specificity to actually, you know, make the change apply, or you can add an important rule. But again, that's just kind of the normal CSS stuff. So you can go through and all of these and, you know, look at the different changes. Like if you want to look at a color or you want to change something in a menu, you can, you know, use the inspector to see what classes you need to change, put in your custom CSS to make those changes. So I think we'll probably do, you know, another sort of webinar on just custom styling, because that's a whole other thing, but that should actually at least get you started. Is it possible to update the menus without having to install an update from the App Store? Yes. So the menus come from the API, and so if you press the Go Live button, that actually refreshes your API, and as soon as the app user opens your app a couple of times, that will refresh their app. So what happens is our apps are pretty heavily cached, and the app will not go get new data unless you press that Go Live button. So what happens when they open the app, it will go check to see if there's an update. If there is an update, it will get the update the next time. So if you're trying to sort of clear the cache on the app on your own phone or something, you have to actually close and open the app a couple of times. Or if you use our preview app, then you can just kind of reload the app through the preview app, and that will add the new data. Can galleries be added to API fetched post using template hooks? Technically, you can add images, yes, using template hooks. However, if there's any custom CSS for your gallery, that custom CSS does not come through the API. The API basically only pulls text data, and so it will not pull through the styles. So you know, you can try it, and it will probably look kind of weird. You'll have to either add that CSS in the app customizer, or you know, find a different way to do it. It also will not use any light boxes or anything like that, because those use JavaScript, and JavaScript does not come through the API. So again, if you need stuff like that, you can use the normal WordPress app list, and that kind of stuff will work out of the box. So push whoosh is not available with AppPresser 3. You can use a child theme to, so for a custom page in the app, you do not use child theme. Child theme is only for your WordPress specific pages. Custom pages are actually completely separate from WordPress. They have nothing to do with WordPress. They're just embedded on the device. So you would not be using a child theme for that. But if you want to use a child theme for your WordPress site, you can look that up in our documentation. We have information on that. So can you use Chrome to test as Android and Safari to test as iOS? Actually, both Chrome and Safari use the -MD. However, with you can change your user agent in both browsers to change to like an iPhone, and that will then test for iOS. And you can just Google how to change your user agent. Will there be a developer community with code snippets? That sounds really cool to me. Yeah, I would love to see that if you want to start one up. One thing that I actually did not mention, and this is going to be the last thing, and then I think I'm going to kind of cut it off here, but we were talking about log in, log out. One interesting thing that we have now is with BuddyPress pages, you can actually add links to your profile. So, and we use that using me links. And this is part of the AppBuddy plugin. So if you have an updated version of the AppBuddy plugin, it will actually do this. What you do is you add me anywhere you want the username to be. So that when the person logs in, they click on this link, it actually goes to their specific profile page, and you can actually put links to all their profile links. So if I wanted to add like my specific activity, I could put members/me/activity, or I could put like settings, or I think, what are some of the other links? I think messages is one of them. So you can look up with BuddyPress the user specific links on their profile page, but essentially that's the way to make links to user specific profile pages. And if they are not logged in, it will actually send them to your home page, and it'll show the login model. So basically it'll force them to log in, and then it'll redirect them. So cool. Let's see. Yeah, well, so I think that about concludes it here. I want to thank you guys all for showing up, and I would love to hear your feedback. And if you guys have anything that you really want to see in AppPresser, let us know. If you have any cool custom features that you're building, we would love to see them. If you have apps that you're proud of, we would love to put them in our showcase. So let us know. And I hope to see you guys again soon.